2 of its 4 runways. The Japan Road Traffic Information Center and police say expressways around Tokyo and northeastern Japan have been closed. The Japan Road Traffic Information Center and police say expressways around Tokyo and northeastern Japan have been closed. According to Toshiba Elevator, it assumes that most elevators came to a halt in the region affected by the disaster. According to Toshiba Elevator, it assumes that most elevators came to a halt in the region affected by the disaster. At the moment, the company has been collecting information about mechanical troubles. The industry minister's Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency has put in place an emergency center for the earthquake. It'll collect information concerning damages caused by the earthquake to nuclear power plants around the country. For those of you who just tuned into NHK World, you're seeing live coverage of Miyagi Prefecture in the Sendai area where a tsunami has struck. A major earthquake hit Japan on Friday afternoon. Japan's meteorological agency says the quake measured magnitude 8.4. The agency has issued a tsunami warning for Japan's Pacific coast. Some
there in Japan, they keep talking about an 8.4. Of course, what we're dealing with here is an 8.9 magnitude quake, a great quake. And I want to make the point, too, I've actually received a tweet here from a person who's in Japan. I've asked them and sent them a tweet to ask for their number so we can talk to them. But they're saying frequent aftershocks, the first time in my life in Japan. So this is a traveler, a tourist in Japan who's tweeting to me, and anyone else who is in Japan who wants to send a tweet, please take the time, feel free if it's safe to, at Rosemary CNN. You know, do get online if you can and send a Twitter. But let's go back to these pictures now. I might just get that sound turned down in my ear if you don't mind. It's a little distracting just from the pictures. Thanks so much. Now, we're looking at all of this debris on the ground there, just moving right across Japan, coming from the coastal areas. We see the boats, we see cars, we see mud, all the debris moving through there. Thankfully, a lot of this is farming area, but it is moving into some buildings there, and we saw some ablaze on the ground. I want to go back to Ivan Cabrera, see what additional information Ivan has. What are you finding out? What are you learning now?
Well, we just had another major earthquake offshore of Japan, a 7.1, which would be devastating enough if certainly shallow enough and closer to the shore. Some of these folks in these farmlands and some of these buildings have no idea what is happening right now. They are perhaps 100+ kilometers away from the shore, and they are seeing on a sunny day in Japan this coming in. I mean, unless you're watching TV, unless you're listening to the radio, you're not going to have any idea what's coming up here. So this is where we get the casualties, where folks are not aware of what's coming and not able to reach a higher ground. And so, unfortunately, the tragic thing is we're seeing that wave of mud and debris and buildings and fire just encompass some of those homes there. And we hope they're empty, but certainly some of them probably are not, Rosemary, there. So there you see the initial wave coming in. Also want to keep monitoring, folks in the back, the shoreline, because I wouldn't, again, this has not happened once. We are talking about a tsunami that comes in, the first initial wave, and then we get another wave and perhaps even a third wave after that. With an 8.9 great earthquake, that shallow, that close to the shore, there are going to be more tsunamis coming in. So we'll have to watch that very closely there. That doesn't look good there. You see the breakers there again, an ongoing threat here. So this is going to be historic indeed.
Indeed, and where people can, and of course it is very difficult, you need to get to higher ground. And any of those countries we've mentioned, any of the coastal areas, you need to move, and you need to move quickly and get to higher ground. I've got Matt Alt on the line now. He's talking to us from Tokyo. He was there, of course, when this earthquake hit, now an 8.9 magnitude quake. Matt, tell us about the situation for you when this magnitude 8.9 hit.
Well, it was absolutely unlike anything I've ever experienced before. I've been living here for 8 years now, and this was quite simply the biggest, longest-lasting earthquake I've ever experienced here.
And that's it, because Kyung La, our reporter there, was saying that she thought it was 4 to 5 minutes. Was that your sense as well?
Oh, yes, the ground was rolling for an extended period of time. I wasn't exactly sure what to do or where to go. I'd never been prepared for anything like this. My wife and I stood outside and basically held on to the outside of our house. You couldn't even stand up. I mean, literally at the peak of these waves that were washing over the ground, you literally could not stay on your feet. You had to kind of crouch down in a ball or put your back against something so you didn't fall. And that's exactly what we did for the length of the duration of it, which I would say was about probably a minute to 2 minutes. It felt like a lot longer than that, let me tell you.
Indeed. And are you saying that you live there, or that you're actually travelling there?
I actually live here. I've lived here for the last 8 years, and I live on the west side of the city in a little section of Tokyo called Kichijoji. And yes, there are earthquakes from time to time, but we have never, ever felt anything on the magnitude, the literal magnitude of what we experience today.
And that's exactly the story we hear. Now, Matt, as we are talking, we are looking at this extraordinary wave, another tsunami wave, moving toward the Japanese coast. And where are you located? Are you away from any threat of tsunami coming ashore?
Yes, we're very fortunate to be located quite far inland. Of course, there's some rivers and streams around here, but those aren't being affected by the tsunami. We're kind of, I would say, a good 10 to 15 miles away from the coastline, so we don't have to really worry about that where we are. But with the footage that we're seeing, the video that we're seeing on the television screens is just, it's absolutely, it's heart-wrenching, actually, because you know that probably a lot of those people did not have a chance to evacuate before the wave hit, even though they were telling people, you need to get away, you need to get away from the shorelines, you need to get away from the water. Just watching this wave hit and cars and buildings and houses being swept away in it, I think we're going to see a significant number of casualties, especially up in the northern part of the country where the quake was epicentered.
And as you mentioned, you've been there for a number of years. I do have to apologise, because someone was actually talking in my ear when you mentioned the number of years that you've been there. How long did you say you'd been there?
I've been here for 8 years. My wife is Japanese, and she's lived here most of her life. And I can tell you, this was something neither of us we were completely unprepared for this. It was a beautiful spring day. It was sunny outside. I had just come home from a little errand to the grocery store, and all of a sudden, bam! It just hit, and you could tell this was different instantly from other little tremors that we've had before. I mean, it just picked up in intensity. It ramped up. The gentle shaking, and things started coming off the shelves, things started falling off our desks, and you could hear this strange, eerie creaking sound of all of the buildings all around us as they were kind of shaken by this, by the tremor of the ground. And it was something I hope I never have to hear again, but unfortunately we keep getting aftershocks. We've had 3 or 4 so far, and there's probably going to be other ones as well.